the academic implications, we very well now know that learning is much more effective if people are getting adequate sleep. There are a lot of other health issues related to sleep as well, whether it's mental health or physical health as well. Just over the past few years, there's been an abundance of literature coming out demonstrating the relationship of various metabolic functions. There's some argument that sleep deprivation leads to increased appetite and, over time, weight gain and increased risk not only for obesity but for diabetes and heart disease as well. I don't think there's the evidence to make a strong conclusion, but some people have argued that since we live in the society that we do, which is inherently sleep deprived for all the various reasons that we can think about, this is partly responsible for the obesity epidemic that we have. And so maybe it is at least a little factor. I'm sure it's not 100% of the problem. So we tend not to value sleep very much, and we stay up too late. We are getting about an hour to 2 hours less sleep every single night compared to our ancestors just 100 years ago, which is huge, and it really adds up. And we experience the cumulative effects of that sleep deprivation. As a society, we don't even know what it's like to be getting enough sleep. There are so many things that intrude on our timing of sleep. We can blame it first on electricity and lights because there was a time without electricity that there was only so much you could do for how long before you would finally go off to sleep. And now, well, maybe television. I'm old enough. You guys don't remember, but there was a time that television actually signed off, and there was nothing on after that. Like 1 o'clock in the morning, there'd be the test pattern, they'd do the Star Spangled Banner, and then there was nothing after that. So you could sleep. Finally, at that point, but now, of course, with cable TVs, there are things all night long, and there are more and more and more things that are not worth watching, but maybe you have to check just to make sure. And so, with a couple of hundred channels, people can sit in bed and just go round and round and round and round and round and round the dial, just in case there's something else that might be a little more interesting. I know there are a lot of people out there who don't go to sleep until they absolutely positively cannot stay awake for another moment, and they've lost an hour or two sleep. They could have physiologically fallen asleep an hour or two earlier, but just too busy doing other things, not valuing it, trying to have some other kind of stimulation instead. So TV is part of the problem, and I think worse than TV, but related to it is the remote control. So I remember the time before there were remote controls, and if you wanted to change the channel, imagine this. You had to get up and walk across the room and change it. And I think that really has an influence on our behavior because there's a limit to how many times you would be doing that as compared to people just with the remote control going round and round and round the dial. The internet, obviously, wonderful thing. We don't know how I'd live without it. On the other hand, it sure gets in the way of our sleeping, whether it is just pursuing really fascinating academic sites or emailing or eBay or Amazon or IMing, whatever. All of these things add up. We can mention as well work schedules now that there are 24-hour shopping that you can go out and do, or online, of course, as well. People are required to do various kinds of shift work that very drastically undermine our ability to sleep. It's not like you can just turn your biological clock upside down if you're doing night shift work. Well, we're right across from the hospital where huge numbers of people need to be there all night long. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but it certainly works against the ability to get enough sleep because when people are working the night shift and then they need to go home and try to get some sleep before they come in the next night, and obviously we want them to be attentive and safe and not cognitively impaired or sleepy when they're doing life-saving functions all night long. People simply can't achieve that sleep. And why is that? Well, think about it. If somebody's worked all night long, they have built up homeostatic sleep drive. So usually when they get home and maybe 9 o'clock the next morning, they have the ability to fall asleep, and that's usually not a problem because there is sufficient homeostatic sleep drive. But by definition, during sleep, that sleep drive is decreasing. And what people don't have then is the circadian clock that normally helps sustain sleep all night long. That's not there in the daytime for them. In fact, ultimately it works the opposite to keep people awake. And so most people who are doing shift work or even permanent night work really are not able to get 8 hours of sleep in. They're lucky if they can get 4 or 5 hours of sleep in and maybe a little nap before they go in later. And so that works against us as well. So there's just a multitude of reasons why we are a sleep-deprived society, whether it's culture and values and work schedules and requirements and all the other choices that are out there. The television schedules as well. You get started watching one show at 10, and before you know it, it's 11 o'clock, and then you've got the news, and maybe you want to stay up for the Letterman or Leno monologue, and then it's Conan O'Brien, and it just goes on after that. It really worries me when patients tell me their favorite show is Conan O'Brien, because I can see that they're likely very, very sleep deprived. Well, that's some of the big picture of not getting enough sleep in our society. I'll come back around then to the academic issues. Just over the past several years have been very interesting experiments, very well-controlled laboratory studies